96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
There comes a time when the game tolerates no spectators, only players. There comes a time when we must recognize that our individual aspirations shape our collective destiny. There comes a time when getting in the game, despite the risks, despite the challenges, regardless of the cost, is simply the right thing to do. There comes a time when we must find our hearts, find our soul, and pursue our purpose for the greater good of all, for country, for humanity. There comes a time when we must manifest our true greatness. Yes, there comes a time, and that time is now. So let's get down to the essentials. The essentials. Serious radio for serious people committed to advancing the national conversation.
The Essentials with Hubert Edwards, Thursday nights live at 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Guardian Radio 96.9.
And good evening and welcome to The Essentials, the reset. This evening we're going to have ourselves a very good conversation. We have a guest joining us from Arawak X. We're going to talk about that very, very exciting things which are happening with the crowdfunding platform, the first of its kind here in the Bahamas, revolutionary, innovative, and groundbreaking. And then we're going to get into some discussions around the election. Election is coming, the House has been dissolved, Parliament has been dissolved, and the election date is set for September 16th. So approximately 30 days from today, we will see the country going to election. So what are your thoughts on that? I have some thoughts on it, not specifically about, party A, party B, or party C, but some of the discussion, broader discussion around your selection, around leadership, around what is it that we should contemplate. But from the jump set, from the initial instance, there's been a lot of, I would say, a lot of activity, and some persons are saying it looked messy, it was up and down, but all of that is part of the political strategies, I guess. Persons who know to play this well play it like that, and we will just have to move forward and see who fares well when the dust is settled. As I mentioned, we will have a guest from Arawak X, so let's take ourselves a quick break, and when we come back, we will get right into the discussion with Arawak X crowdfunding platform and some exciting news coming up for next week. You're listening to The Essentials, the reset. Come right back.
You know it's so essential, so serious. Time for the essentials. For the best jerk in the Bahamas, you must have Baloo's. Pork, fish, and chicken served with our delicious country-style sauce and authentic festivals. Baloo's, Nassau East South. Call or WhatsApp 376-8951. Baloo's, the jerk with the soul of reggae and the spirit of Junkanoo. Baloo's jerk, traditional, slow-cooked to perfection. 376-8951. Get yours today.
And you can begin investing with as little as $25 in an international technology company and an international food franchise on awakx.com. What do you need to get started? Just go to awakx.com to sign up by clicking on Start Investing. So what are you waiting for? Let's go! AWAC-X, moving people from consumers to owners. Regulated by the Securities Commission of the Bahamas.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
And welcome back to The Essentials, the reset. I'm your host, Hubert Edwards. And we have the principals from Arawak X on our live line. Welcome to The Essentials.
Well, thank you for having me. I don't know if I'm one of the principals. I'm making me sound more important than I am.
I think I'm giving you the proper context. I know that you are a very humble young man, but certainly, where kudos is due, then kudos should be given. And so we're speaking.
Well, thank you.
We're speaking to Mr. Darcy Ramin Jr., aren't we not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm just to introduce myself to your guests again. My name is Darcy Ramin Jr. I am the Chief Technology Officer here at Arawak X.
Yes, and that makes you a principal, definitely. And so we're talking about Arawak X new crowdfunding platform, but more importantly, you have been at this for a little while now. And we are hearing some exciting news. We're hearing about the launch. I've seen in one particular newspaper where they actually said the bell will be rung. Somebody rang the bell just a little bit before you this week. But next week, a different type of bell will be rung. Talk to us about Arawak X. Talk to us about this exciting opportunity which is coming up for the country and maybe for the region on a whole.
Yes. So ringing the bell signifies a major event. We know a different kind of bell was rung today for politics, but in exchanges, ringing the bell signifies the opening of the market or the closing of the market, which means that with Arawak X on Monday, August 23rd at 9 a.m., you will be able to purchase shares in these two exciting new companies that are about to list. Mm-hmm. And so we tried to localize our ringing the bell. So we actually have some cowbells that they can be ringing.
Yeah, that's important. The idea, though, Mr. Ramin, of having a platform, akin to a stock exchange, really, but to having a platform in an environment like the Bahamas, which is largely driven by micro businesses, small business. If pretty much all of the Bahamas was taken and put into the United States, the bulk of our large companies would be referred to as small companies. How important is your offering, your value proposition, Arawak X, to the growth, development, and upliftment of the Bahamian people going forward?
That's a fantastic question. So, as you know, with business people have tons of ideas, and it's really all the business people that I've ever met, they always have one or two of those ideas that are so big that they wish that they had something like Arawak X to tap into the ability to go after equity, go after the capital markets, because where Arawak X fits in the whole ecosystem is that when a entrepreneur or business person has an idea that's bigger than the capital, bigger than the collateral that they can have to go to a bank. So what do you do if you only have a $250,000 piece of property, but your idea takes $1 million, $2 million, up to $5 million to finance? Mm-hmm. Well, before Arawak X, you kind of had to just either, most business people either tried to bootstrap it or they had to scale down their ideas, and now they'll be able to properly go out to the market. So that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, what happens when you're the investor and you have excess cash laying around and you want to put that cash to work? How do you get a decent return on that? Right. And so what Arawak X allows is these two people with these two very different problems to come together, and everyone's rights are protected, and everyone can benefit from coming together.
Yes, and so Arawak X is, in your own words, what you just explained, is the classic definition of a market, bringing together persons who have a need and an individual who want to satisfy those needs from a financial point of view. Investment in the Bahamas is an interesting thing. Given the socio-economic makeup of the country, there are many persons out there who will readily disengage from a conversation around investment because they're saying, this is not for me. This is a big man thing. I do not have the type of monies. It doesn't make sense. I take my, $2, which I need to go buy bread and so on to engage in this. On the other hand, the Bahamas has displayed a very robust tradition, a very robust culture, if you will, of entrepreneurship at the lower levels, if you will. And these two phenomena, I think, come together very nicely as far as what you're trying to achieve with your platform. Talk to that small investor, and in the same stead, talk to the budding entrepreneur who doesn't see their way out, and Arawak X can help them in this regard.
So let's start with the investor. One of the key fundamental values of Arawak X is something called financial inclusion. And fortunately, the regulations and the technology have all kind of been matured, where now we can go and lower the barrier to entry. So anyone with as little as $25 can participate.
Right.
It is really hard to save $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, and that's a stretch. Even for people who make those kinds of money, it's hard to save that. And so, by lowering the barriers and making it more accessible, we believe that people will come into the markets, they will touch them, experience them, and then it becomes a tool that they can use for the other reasons that people save in their lives. Maybe you start off with vacation, then it goes to a car, then it goes to a house, and then it goes to a business. And so, but without these tools, you can never really get into the economic system itself.
Right.
That's the investor. On the flip side, as the business, the budding entrepreneur, having the understanding what an investor wants allows you to, as a business person, shape your business in a way that makes it investable. And so we at Arawak X also, we try and any business person that we meet, when they come and they contact us, even if they're not in the position, if they're not investable at this moment, because we ourselves are entrepreneurs, we recognize that, you're on a journey. And, if you say you want to be an investable company, that's like saying, I want to be a doctor. And you don't tell, an 8-year-old kid, no, you can't be a doctor. Go away from me. Get the hell out of here. You tell them, okay, you want to be a doctor. You got to get some good grades in high school. You got to structure yourself this way. Then you got to go to med school. And then you got to, do residency. There's a process to it. And so what we try to do to the budding entrepreneur is explain the process to them, and then they can make a decision as to whether or not they really want to do it. And I think in the past, people didn't explain that because there wasn't the opportunity. And that's really what Arawak X is about. It's about just making sure that people have the opportunities, both the business people and the investors.
Yeah, and I think what you are offering is fundamental. From my perspective, I spent some time in the bank and as an accountant. One of the most debilitating aspect of the entrepreneurial class, especially those who operate at the very lowest levels, is the fact that they have not yet developed the discipline and the structures, the corporate governance, the things which make it an investor say, let me take a second look. And in many instances, they operate simply at that mom and pop level. And consequently, the potential which is embedded in the original idea never comes to fruition. This really is what you are seeking to facilitate. Now, it won't necessarily affect everyone, but given that you are being...
as you know, business people, sometimes you operate a business not because you want to run the next publicly traded company,
right?
But because sometimes you just want to, bake cookies, and someone enjoys your cookies. I mean, so people run businesses for different reasons. But what we're talking about is the entrepreneur that has an idea that's so large that he can't do it by himself. And he recognizes that he needs a team. He recognizes that it needs to be properly structured so he can seek investment, and is willing to learn and to improve his skills as a business person. That's what we're talking about here.
Right.
So
the possibilities.
Yes, exactly. Because it is work. This is not you just sign up on the website and you get listed and then people give you money. If the world worked like that,
we wouldn't be
the
doing
world
this.
doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. But Mr. Ramin, I think, while I'm sure that you have some rules which currently handcuff you until Monday, tell us about these two exciting opportunities as broadly as you can without breaking the rules. What should the typical investor, the individual who literally can buy into an investment by trading in 5 instances of 3 for 5?
Okay, so what I can say is one of the companies is an international food brand, and the other company is a tourism technology company. And so when you see them, you're going to be like, wow, these are some really great companies with some really great teams. And what I also can say is what is our listing requirements? What do we look for in companies? And we like to use this TEAM with MAGIC. And TEAM is an acronym and MAGIC is an acronym. So TEAM stands for the executive, advisors, and management. So who's running this business? And what you need to ask yourself when you look at these companies is, okay, has this person done this before? Did they go to school for this? It's no sense in saying you're going to run a medical business and nobody on the team has any medical experience, right? So those are the kinds of questions you need to evaluate. If they're talking about international business, who on their team has international business experience? And so the team is really, really, really important. And by the way, this team with MAGIC is kind of how professional investors look at companies.
Right.
M, what does M stand for? A market. And what that means is a market that is big enough. So this person has to be going after enough customers where it makes sense for him to be investable.
Yeah. You need to be in a place where the business is scalable.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because otherwise, what's the point, right? I mean, if I give you my money and you can't grow it for me, why would I give you my money? That's just, that's logical. It's natural. And the A stands for access to that market. Yes, you might have identified that there's, an asteroid in space that has, 20 times the amount of gold as on planet Earth. But if you can't get to it, what's the point? That's a nonsensical business conversation. It's fantasy. So A, market and access. The G stands for growth. Right now, where you are, you're looking to grow at least 10 times. And so the idea then is now, if this thing works, it's going to really work. So it starts to make sense on the risk-reward kind of attitude factor. Then the I stands for innovative. So something about what these group of people, this team is doing is new and exciting. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, technological. I'm a technologist, but not everybody's into technology. But innovation in business can be a different way of displaying your product, different way of doing customer service. It could be a lot of different things. So there's a lot of ways to innovate in business. And then the C is that corporate governance that you talked about, making sure that it's structured properly in a way that if these people get this money, you have a good chance of, once you invest, of getting that money back out. And so, we as the platform and the rules guarantee a certain level of corporate governance,
yes,
including reporting requirements, et cetera, et cetera. I'm trying to keep it high level because finance people will spend all day talking to you about corporate governance.
Yeah, definitely.
literally all day.
You don't want to you don't want to me to take you down that rabbit hole. But I like this. The
No, I mean
team.
I don't think your listeners
No,
want to go
no,
down
no.
that
They don't
rabbit
want to
hole
go
on
down that
radio.
rabbit hole at all. Team and magic. I think two important acronyms. You have to see the market, because this is where the money is going to be made. You have to have access to that. You have to ensure that there is growth, and this is, as Mr. Ramin indicated, it's above normal growth. We're talking about getting 10x or more. This is where it's going to make sense for you to put small amount and then take out greater value. And of course, the I is for, remind me the I again.
Innovation.
Oh, innovation.
Something innovative.
Yeah. So you need to be doing something different. So, it may very well be chicken in a bag in a different way. Maybe, chicken in a bag, which is delivered by one of these newfangled gadgets, and the person doesn't have to move. That is innovation. Innovation doesn't mean you come up with something totally groundbreaking. And of course, your corporate governance, the way the company is managed, you have obligations, and that is very, very fundamental. Now, in many instances, Mr. Raman, the individual, the ordinary individual who may, in the first instance, say, well, this is not for me, but will later get type of interested, may have an opportunity to kind of test the waters and kind of get within that arena and that realm of thinking, because you, Arawak X, as an entity, through its corporate social responsibility, is putting on these community investor education center with a view of educating as broad as possible number of persons, so that you now creating some level of sophistication at that level, which is not there before. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so we recognized as we were launching this thing that financial literacy is low in the country, and and here's the thing: it's low across the board, because we often hear things like literacy, and we think, I'm smart. I went to engineering school. I know I'm literate. Not understanding that nobody knows anything about money. Is born knowing anything about money. You have to be taught this stuff. It's and some of it is not intuitive, which is crazy, because we spend a good portion of our lives thinking about money, right? So we recognized that, and what we decided to do was we've opened one investor education center, and we intend to open 3 more on New Providence, one in Freeport, in the coming year or so. And at this education center, you'll take a course. You'll figure out. We'll show you how to use the platform. We'll explain to you what markets are about. A little bit of education on on risk and some other basic finance stuff. And basically, the purpose of the course is to get people in the center. They can speak to real people. They can begin to fall down the rabbit hole. Finance can become very, very complicated, but it doesn't have to start off very, very complicated. No. You just need some basic tenets, and you could be really, really successful with some just basic stuff.
Yes.
And so we recognize that, and we're trying to make that available for as many people as possible.
Yeah, the most important aspect of this, obviously, is getting the education, getting the grounded, as Mr. Ramin indicated. A lot of persons in this world who like to throw you into the complicated end first, but start at a level, and then it becomes additive. You create a foundation, and as you create a foundation, the complexities become that more easier to be dealt with. Importantly, interestingly, you're doing this for free.
Yes, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it for free. We don't offer, we don't give investment advice, but there's a lot of education that can be done. And then when people start asking about advice, we actually work with a lot of financial advisors, and we direct people in their direction. So we're the market. So the marketplace, we provide an important function. And we want to make sure that people understand what that function is, as well as can start this journey, because there's a lot of struggles. People have a lot of struggles, especially coming out of this pandemic. But even before the pandemic, really since the 2008 financial crisis, there's been a lot of struggles going on in this town.
Yes.
And the only way out of that is to be a little bit more financially literate, for businesses to get funded, and that's kind of the space that we're in, and this is our expertise. And me and my old man believe this is our calling to help people in this way, and so it's all come together under Arawak X.
Yeah. Now, in many ways, Mr. Rahman, this is kind of akin to a junior stock exchange. Within the context of the Bahamas, it definitely is, given that there is BISIX. And so you are doing something which on one end level is groundbreaking. It's the first of its kind here certainly in the Bahamas. Do you have regional ambition? Is there a view that, hey, once we would have refined the model here, our view is not limited to the Bahamas. It's not limited to the region. It's really a proposition, a value proposition with an international thrust. Is this what I'm sensing here? Because clearly, if you're putting investors together with ideators, individuals who are coming up with wonderful ideas, then you want to be drawing on as wide a pool as is possible. Talk to us about how the mechanics work behind the scenes for this.
Okay, so yes, we do have, we have been invited into several different Caribbean jurisdictions to duplicate what we're doing here, there. I was fortunate enough to go off to university in the States. Many of our directors, as well as our chairman and CEO, went to one of the best business schools in the world. And so there is a problem right now, and you say problem, quote, good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
That's going on in the finance spaces. There's more money than there are ideas. But what people don't understand is that without mechanisms to bring the money and the ideas together in a properly structured environment, money doesn't flow. And so one of the things that we're doing is making sure that those mechanisms are in place, so that businesses in the Bahamas and throughout the region can access that money because it's there. We can all see it around us. Just turn on the TV and you could see that there's tons of money in the world, and we as a region are almost ideally placed because we're right next to the largest, most powerful economy that has ever existed on the planet, and so. It's just about making sure that their needs are met as investors, and making sure that they're being protected, and that money will flow. And so we're working in the background with a lot of some of the stuff you're hearing with the economic recovery, and making sure that those mechanisms exist. I hope that answered your question. I don't want to get.
Yeah, I realize I'm, and I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I don't think people want to hear about the regulation.
Yes. We're not getting into regulation
on the radio.
But just going back to these two very exciting ideas, which are going to materialize on Monday, the 23rd. In a Bahamian context. One of the things that is going to be asked first is who own these companies? And again, I don't want to handcuff you, but without, delivering anything or, getting into any regulatory trouble, are these entities, as you say, it's an international franchise, but are these entities coming solely from outside of the country, being developed by international individuals, and by international I mean non-Bahamian? Is there a mix happening here? Talk to us about that.
So these companies have Bahamian founders, and what you'll see is there's a document that comes with each crowdfunding listing called a crowd offering document, and it kind of operates like an offering memorandum or like in prospectus, and you'll be able to see who the ownership of it is, because all this has to be disclosed. You'll see the shares that you're buying, the prices. You'll be able to see all of that information. And that information is also beautifully displayed on the platform in a way that, the offering memorandum, the crowd offering document, the prospectus is just the legalese of what everybody else is saying. But we've tried to make it super simple so people can understand it. I believe in, keeping things simple. Personally, I distrust anything that is really, really complicated because I feel like people are trying to trick you. So we've tried to set everything up to make it as simple. And as people have questions, we'll be in a position. And it's important to remember also that it's not our businesses. We're just the platform. The businesses themselves will be in a position to answer questions on their offering.
Yeah, and so you sit as a platform, as a facilitative agent, and you are the one who's bringing the person with the funding and the person with the idea together. Now, talk to us broadly. And by us, I mean the market, the Bahamian people, the persons who are listening. What would you say to that individual who has the $25 or more than 25, maybe $500, and decided, well, I want to get my toe wet in this investment because $100 is not a lot in the scheme of things, but it would be a good way to get into this realm and start to understand what it means to become an investor and to own parts and parcel of potentially high growth businesses, that individual specifically, and guide them through the thought process that they may want to follow without giving advice?
Okay. So I will say the first thing to understand with investment is that there's no such thing as a guaranteed idea. So everything I say you have to look at it with the understanding that there's risk here, and risk is not necessarily a bad thing. It just is, and you have to mitigate it. And so you have to ask the questions, okay, what happens here? Do they have a plan to protect against that risk? So the classic risk example is when you drive in a car, you can get in a car accident and die. So you mitigate that by wearing a seatbelt. Same thing with business. So the person who is looking to put their $100 in, you're going to be presented with a lot of different types of information. Now, don't let that scare you off. Get involved. Try and ask questions. This is what the financial is about. I remember when I was 15 and 16 years old, my parents gave me a couple dollars to invest, and then picked a company based on gut. I didn't even read any of the information, to be honest. But then you get the statements, you get you get to see the process, and over time you get better and better at making decisions. And so, like I say, the team with magic is really the gold standard. Really do take a look at the team. The team makes or breaks a business. A good team can survive bad times. A bad team can't survive good times. So it's really important to look at that team, to look at the idea, and then make a decision based on that. Like I said, the magic part that takes some time to get used to. Sit down with, because this is your money. You worked hard for it. So if you have any questions or any concerns, find someone that is a little bit more financially educated with you and have them sit down and you all discuss it and talk about it. And because we as Bahamians and we as Caribbean people, sometimes we have this opinion that, you're not supposed to talk about money. Money is bad. We don't talk about money. But no, you got to get used to talking about money in a certain way. Otherwise, you're never going to be financially literate. And so start the process, jump in, start to get educated, because it really isn't that complicated once you jump in. Once you learn it, it becomes almost like brushing well, not hopefully not like brushing teeth, but like driving a car.
Yes.
You learn the rules. You learn what not to do. Hopefully, you don't drink and drive. You shouldn't drink and invest. So things like that.
Yeah, it's really a process, and I think that's what
It is.
Mr. Rahman is trying to drive home. You're not going to jump in on day one and you're going to hit home runs, right? Obviously, sometimes we take
some do, but I mean, don't expect to.
Yeah, we do. We take some risks sometimes, and it take a while. And looking back, we say, "Oh, that was a good one." It turns out to be a great home run. But the whole idea is that you're going to be methodical. You're going to be disciplined. You're going to understand that there's some things that you are going to need to learn. And fundamentally, here is a facility. Here is a facilitation where information is available via their website. They're going to make it easier for you to gain the knowledge and the understanding where you become more comfortable. So if you're out there and you are interested in hearing what is going to happen on this first bell ringing of the market, that is not the election, then certainly you want to stay tuned and you want to go to the website, you want to log in, you want the organization, you want to do all that is going to be necessary between now and I guess Sunday, so that you will be ready come Monday morning. So give us some details, Mr. Rahman, the website contact, telephone numbers, and so on. Persons who, if they are such a facility, accommodation within the company itself, who persons can reach out to, or where can they, what next step can they take? Having listened to you this evening, what is their next step?
So the process is go to rwacx.com, sign up. So log in click for investor, fill out the forms. Because it is an asset, just like your house or your car or your like a duplex, it has to be registered in your legal name, which means that we're going to need passport, NIB card, driver's license, proof of address. Now, if you don't have a proof of address, like a utility or a bank statement, you can, and you're living, like say for example, you're years old and you're living with someone like your parent, all you need is a letter from them, and that serves as proof of address as well. So I know that was a big problem for people in the past, so we've managed to solve that. Once we have that information, we can process you. This is the regulated financial space, which means we can only allow certain people in, which means that you have to go through that compliance process before we're allowed to accept your money. And so it's important to understand that takes time. So please go on the website, start that process as soon as possible, so that you can, come Monday at 9 a.m., you'll be able to participate.
Yeah, that is so important. Someone who is listening via social media said that they visited the office on Monday just to check it out, right? And his conclusion is that something fantastic is cooking up at Arawak X. So, you have impressed someone. I know this individual, and if that individual has been so impressed, then certainly I am sure that you have something fantastic happening there. So, Mr. Rahman,
we're really trying hard to make this process easy. So, I mean, and people, mouth could say anything, right? But we're really working to make sure that this is, we're living to our values and we're staying true to our mission. So please feel free to reach out. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free, if you're having any issues, to write us. We're also on social media, so if you can't reach us through the normal channels, you can reach us there. We're trying to be super responsive, because this is our country, our region, and we're trying to make this place nice.
Yeah, I think that is important. It's really a fantastic way of framing it. This is our country, this is our region, and we are trying to make I want us to kind of end on that note, and so I'm going to ask you, Mr. Rahman, the long-term vision, without giving anything away, without giving any strategic thing. You said earlier, these are my words, this is kind of yours and you and your father's ministry. Ministry is my word. It's how you see yourself depositing significant impact in an aspect of humanity on this side of the world. So as we close, we know that Arawak X is the platform where you can do investment. It's about small investment as little as $25, and they are going.
And if you have more than $25, we will take that too.
Yeah.
25 million is okay as well.
Yeah. 25 is the minimum, and we know that persons out there have multiples of 25. But the whole point is, it's easy for you to get into. If you want to look at it this way, Mr. Ramin talked earlier about risk-reward trade-off, and that's what it is. It's a trade-off. It's better for you to start learning and growing and investing at a 25 level than to go and learn at a higher level where the risk is higher and the reward may not be as good. So we want to encourage you to go to the website, check the website out, read the information, learn for yourself. Don't go on the basis that you heard Mr. Ramin said on Edward's radio show. We want you to be an informed individual, because informed investors are the best investors that we know. So talk to us about the large vision and where you intend to use this as a form of ministry to impact the Bahamas, to impact the region.
Well, I was fortunate to grow up in a business family. Both of my parents are executives and were executives. My dad opened up his own management consulting practice, and after university chose to come back to join him in that practice. And so for me, business is more than just about making money. In fact, the bad business people are the ones that focus on money. The good ones are the ones that focus on creating value and making sure that their customers' needs are met. And then, of course, they're rewarded with money. So when business thrives, society thrives, because businesses, when they're going through these, they get funding. In order to go after opportunity, they have to hire people. And not only just people at all levels. They have to hire professionals, which means that you need really talented people. Like, for example, with us at Arawak X, we have several people on the firm that have master's degrees in their various expertise. So, and as a millennial who had to make that decision of whether or not to come back home, it's only, we have to build more people to make that decision, and to make that decision as easy as possible, because I think most people would prefer to stay at home, right? Where, mom could cook you go to Sunday dinner and do that stuff, but they are faced with economic challenges and economic reality. And so for me and for my old man and for all of us at Arawak X, we believe that what we're doing is going to help make that process, make the society a little bit nicer. And so that's kind of the vision we have for the Bahamas, but also for the region as a whole. So people understand that this is not charity. We're not, I'm not. I am a business person as well. We make our money when a raise is successful. So the business wins, the investor wins, and then of course that's when we get paid. So it's important that everybody's needs are being met, and I don't see why not. This like I say, there's America is right there. There's so much money floating out there. We don't need to be worried about this scarcity, but we do need to understand it and to tap into it.
Yes. And I think that is an important point to make. And so we want to thank you so much for joining us this evening, for sharing with us and sharing with the audience this information. I think it's vital. Arawak X, in my own words, is creating a pipeline through which they intend to flow and make a connection between investor and the individual who generates the idea. Therefore, if you have been out there and you've been struggling, or you have given up because you figured that you won't be able to find the investment necessary to boost your dream, to fuel your dream, to move forward, here is a second opportunity. And if you're coming out of the gate, then certainly this is an opportunity for you. But if you're not on that side and you're certainly just on the investor side, here is a big opportunity for you. Starting with a minimum of $25, you can invest in companies which are at least by 10x. That's what they would have stated. And you want to necessarily, starting this minute, go to their website, check it out, get all of the information that you can so that you can start to move your wealth forward. This is about, as Mr. Raman says, the CTO of this organization. Look, this is not simply about us making money. It's really about how we can change Bahamians into becoming owners within their own economy. Last word, final word, Mr. Raman.
Go to the website and sign up. Offerings are on a first come, first served basis, which means that, if you're in process and the offering subscription is taken up, you have to wait until the next offering, the next company, or you have to wait until it's listed on the secondary market. So I encourage people that if you're on the fence, it's free to sign up. So we don't, we, like I say, we only make money when the issuance is closed. So please get signed up, get registered properly. So on Monday Monday the 23rd at 9 a.m., you'll be able to see the information, make a decision, and then go from there.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. D'Arcy Raman Jr., the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer at Arawak X, offering this wonderful opportunity. Check it out, go to the website, and we certainly look forward to hearing after Monday the 23rd how successful this has been. So there's going to be a ringing of the bell in the morning, and when the market closes in the evening, we certainly want you to come back and tell us, because it is important for the market to have that type of a feedback. Thank you for being here with us this evening.
And thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man, definitely. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, go check out the website. Dust off those $25. Dust off multiples of $25. Start to thinking about it. Start to reimagine, to dust off your old ideas, because there is help us to kind of change the marketplace, to fill a gap. There has been a gap in the marketplace, and this Arawak X presents that opportunity. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to shift the conversation. You're listening to The Essentials, The Reset. Don't move. Come right back.
Tips for keeping children healthy. Ensure the children are up to date with their vaccinations, including the flu vaccine. Make sure that your children practice preventative actions such as proper hand washing. Teach them to cover their nose and mouth with tissue or the inner elbow when coughing or sneezing. Encourage them to keep their hands away from their eyes, nose, and mouth. Explain that they should keep their distance from persons who are coughing and sneezing. Keep your children home when...
Brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
Are you ready? August 23rd at 9 a.m., you can begin investing with as little as $25 in an international technology company and an international food franchise on awakx.com. What do you need to get started? Just go to awakx.com to sign up by clicking on Start Investing. So what are you waiting for? Let's go! AWAC-X, moving people from consumers to owners. Regulated by the Securities Commission.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
The reset, as we had just a quick conversation with one of the principals, the Chief Technology Officer of Arawak X, Mr. D'Arcy Raman Jr., and a lot of information there. We again encourage you to check out the website, Arawak X, ARAWAK, and X, big X. So should be very, very easy to find these days. If you can't find it, just Google it, they said. Now let's talk about election. Election is coming. There's no question about that. There was a lot of speculation. Is it going to be 2021? Is it going to be 2022? Well, guess what? All of that uncertainty is now gone. The House was prorogued and it has been dissolved, and therefore we are where we are. I think one of the most fantastic thing about the last couple of years, certainly across this particular administration, has been the many opportunities that we have had for civic lessons to really understand some of the workings, the machinations, some of the strategies, some of the maneuvering which has taken place. I think has presented such a wonderful and rich opportunity for us to really know what, how government works. And the difference this time around is a lot of these things have taken place in the past. The difference is that with COVID, we have more time to pay attention. There is not all of the usual things which are distracting us or pulling our attention away. We have paid a significant amount of attention to governance over the last short while. I think the previous administration, it's now the previous administration because it's gone. There may be a new one, could be with the same players, but it will be a different administration. They have often said that they have managed or governed under extremely difficult circumstances with a storm and with COVID, unprecedented. But one of the overlooked aspects of their administration is the unprecedented attention that they got, simply because a lot of us didn't have much more to do. That may not sound like, the best way of saying that. I'm not saying that we were idle, but the truth is, with the lockdowns, with the curfews, with the limitations on the amount of things that we normally do in okay years, we now had more time to pay attention to governance and what's happening in Parliament and what's happening coming out of cabinet, and listen to the news, and with the proliferation of social media. Like, for example, today, social media broke the news on the election. WhatsApp, without doubt. They got it, they had it. It was floating around long before any news agency confirmed that that was so. Life is changing. This, my dear friends, is the new normal that we've been talking about. And nothing about it is normal. Nothing about it is normal. Everything is radically changing. The Prime Minister makes a decision, and in 0.0000 seconds, that decision is floating around the country. As opposed to, back in the days, it would get out in a little bit. The persons in the know will know first. And then it would make the official news. What is happening is that radically, that whole structure, in somewhat of a power structure, because information creates this type of a group in these people who are in the know. But that is changing radically. But let's talk about election from a different perspective. I don't know who you are going to vote for. I don't know who you support, and that's not important. As we listen to the Prime Minister's presentation today, one of the things which became very, very evident is the idea that there is a need for a mandate. There is a need for a new mandate. So one would get the impression that all things taken together, the Prime Minister may not have decided easily that September 16 was going to be the election day. It seemed as if there is a multiplicity of issues which flowed into this particular discussion. And I know some people, especially those who are deep into the politics or those who may be cynical, some persons say, well, the Prime Minister is tired. He finally give up running and running away from the issues and so on and so forth. But what if it's just a little bit more complicated? What if the issues are a little bit deeper? What if the next 30 days represent, based on the information that the Prime Minister have at his disposal and based on expert advice, what if the next 30 days represent the best window for an election? And I'm just speculating here, right? But work with me. If we were to assume that that is true, what then may day 31 represent and day 35? Is there a feeling? Is there a thinking that there's something coming down the pipe which is significant enough to have pushed the Prime Minister to move this election to this point in time? Based on my analysis, and I'm not deep into the politics or the culture or connected with any of the players, but my thinking was, it wasn't going to be this year. I think the Prime Minister himself said so. I would have thought that based on all the happenings on the ground, this current administration would have managed or embraced as much more time from this point to its own advantage. That was kind of my thinking. But the fact that that didn't pan out as I thought about it, may have important implications, serious implications. Do you have a thought on this? The numbers, 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. Give us a call. We would really, really love to hear whether you have any thinking about this. But a mandate. A mandate is usually what a political party thinks that they get when they get elected. So parties usually say, we got the mandate, whether they win by one vote or not. Our system is first past the post, 50 plus 1. That's it. Majority counts. So if you win by a landslide, persons will say more forcefully, we have a significant mandate. But if they only win by one vote, which is fine because that's the first past the post system, then they will also say that they have a mandate. So when the Prime Minister mentioned that there are some important issues which are going to be facing the country or facing the administration, any administration, and consequently the time is right to put the power back to the people, you have to now start to sit up and think very carefully. Again, it's easy to be cynical. Again, it's easy to be superficial. Again, it's easy to take these things lightly. But I like to ask the question, what if? What if there is a deeper reason? And I always operate on the basis that the persons in power, the persons close to the center, really know significantly more about what is happening than we do. We have to appreciate that. I have here the Prime Minister's speech, and just to give you a couple of highlights, he talked about the fact that we live in a vibrant parliamentary democracy secured by our founders for the promotion of common good and general welfare. Well, one of the things about the last two administrations which has, I think, taken away from that vibrancy has been landslide elections. The last two elections, in my view, has not been ideal for democracy. Because at the end of the day, we ended up with a significantly eroded opposition. Now, I am not taking sides. I think generally the assembly is going to be filled between the PLP and the FNM. However that number pans out. That's just what history tells us is going to be so. We know that there's a DNA and there are multiple other parties, including the coalition of independence. But I believe that for the most part, as history have shown up to now, it's going to be a two-party race. The one thing I do not want to see, I wish I would not see going forward, is a lopsided opposition. And that is for a number of reasons. One, I think it affects the robustness of the parliament. It impacts the extent to which the parliament itself can hold the executive in check. Because when you have a significant majority, like was the case here, where I think the FNM had 34 compared to the 4 for the PLP, even if we throw in the persons who went independent or crossed the floor, there was absolutely no way for the parliament to check this particular executive when you factor in the size of the cabinet. So my ideal situation is to have a split in the voting, which creates a sufficiently robust opposition plus backbenchers to be able to challenge as the conventions anticipate under the Westminster system. So we want to see that. We also want to ensure that the way we play out this experiment called democracy is done differently. There is a need for more cooperation. There's a need for more working in a bipartisan way, working across the aisle. I think that is important. I think that would be significantly advancing for democracy within the Bahamas. As the Prime Minister said, a vibrant parliamentary democracy. A vibrant parliamentary democracy requires the full aspect of it. If you look at any country, take England, for example, where the Westminster system has been borrowed from, the possibility of the executive outstripping the opposition is opposition plus backbenchers. It can't happen. It absolutely can't happen. I think they have a ceiling on the cabinet at maybe 18%, some percentage. But the fact of the matter is there's 600 plus seats, member parliament seats in that arrangement. So we want to see that kind of change. So having been given or seeking a new mandate, the government is trying to do that on the basis that, hey, there's some things coming down the pipe which needs decision. And I think, in a way, without getting too deeply into it, the Prime Minister kind of foreshadowed this by saying there are some decisions around the pandemic itself which are going to be challenging in the near term. I have some areas which I highlighted here, right? He did say to the people in the country in general that you have worked well with the government and public health team. You know, in some ways, I think sometimes we have heard differently, but persons have worked well to get us to this point in the journey. He says also that there has been significant amount of vaccine, 550,000 doses of life-saving vaccine. We now can vaccinate ourselves out of the emergency phase of the pandemic. This does not mean the pandemic will quickly go away. Indeed, the pandemic will continue for some time around the world with the risk of other variants. We just heard yesterday that the Delta variant has been confirmed in Jamaica. We suspect that is going to be the same case here. It has been here for a while, just not yet confirmed. The Prime Minister goes on to say, we will for a time still have to abide by common sense public health measures such as wearing masks. Talks about the expiration of the emergency order. But he said, although there has been progress in securing vaccine, we still face challenging times in the short term due to current surges in cases. So we have to understand that. It is now time for the Bahamian people to choose who they want to lead them as we move toward vaccinating every Bahamian who wish to be vaccinated. Your next government will have key decisions to make in enacting post-pandemic public health legislation. Your next government will have to make other key decisions to build on the robust economic growth started on our watch. Your next government will have to make important decisions on rebuilding and renewing a post-COVID-19 Bahamas. A new mandate is needed to ensure that a government is in place to do this difficult work over the long term as we are reaching a critical turning point in this pandemic. So, Prime Minister is highlighting that we've made some progress. The securing of the vaccine is fundamental. At one point in time, we could argue, don't say to persons you can go get vaccinated when the supply is limited. Now the supply is in place. Now the supply is significantly secured. Where do we go to next? But there are some important decisions to be made. The fact of the matter, I think, in local everyday parlance, the next administration is going to have it tough, rough. There are going to be decisions on the economic front and on the health front, which is going to make life difficult for those in the political realm. I honestly believe that this next administration is going to be characterized by a demonstration or a lack thereof of political will. Now, we all are, talking about the idea of vaccine fixing this thing. And no mandatory this and no mandatory that. I have latched on to the idea, I may be wrong, but I've latched onto this idea and I've talked about it. I've written it down in short words on Facebook and so on. I believe that the world has agreed or is agreeing or is congealing around the idea that vaccinations are the only way to fix this pandemic. I believe so. And what that means is that, like you're seeing in some countries, like you're seeing in the United States, there are going to be mandatory declarations. It may not be universal, but just like they will say to the persons in the army, you must be vaccinated, they will say to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, you must be vaccinated. To the Defense Force, you must be vaccinated. To nurses, to teachers, and so on and so forth. I believe that there is going to come a point if this COVID virus, through the operation of the various variants, start to take a deeper hold and to create greater havoc in the country, then certain additional steps will have to be taken which are going to be more stringent. And therefore, the idea of no mandatory requirement, in my mind, is never going to be off the table. It's not. So we have to deal with the healthcare. We have to deal with the pandemic in and of itself. We have to deal with the economic crisis. We have to deal with the issue of the economic scarring which is taking place as we speak. There are individuals who are finding themselves on the food line, on the bread line, those who are finding themselves below the poverty line, who were never, ever there before. There are individuals who were generationally challenged and pulling themselves up and have been set back maybe a generation or two. Generation and a half, maybe half a generation. The issues are really, really real. So what does that lead us to start to look at this moment? There is going to be a change in administration. What do I mean by that? The Hubert Minnis administration of 2017 to 2021 has come to an end. At best, there is going to be a Hubert Minnis administration 2021 into the future. Or there may be a different set of players. It may be the Brave Davis administration. It could be the Komalafe administration. Or it could be the Lincoln Bain-led coalition of independence. Who knows? But there's going to be a new one. And so from where I sit, we all know the way party politics work in the Bahamas. If the FNM wins, Mr. Minnis is going to be the prime minister as the leader of the party. If the PLP wins, Mr. Brave Davis is going to be the prime minister. The DNA, it would be Ms. Arinte Komalafe, and if the coalition wins, it's likely to be Mr. Bain. So from a leadership perspective, we have a fair understanding and idea of who these persons are. So as you seek a new mandate, or someone looking to get a brand new one, the FNM is looking for a renewal, I think the question on the minds of the electorate should be, how is the leader going to lead? Now, why do I ask that question? Very often we ask who the leader is going to be, and we focus on things which are referred to as character traits. We look at, are they charismatic? Can they speak well? Do they present well? Do they dress well? Is this individual, very enthusiastic and energetic? It's the trait theory of leadership, if you will. But all that determines is that one individual may seem to be more attractive as a leader than another individual based on physical or potentially, intellectual traits. It does not take into consideration how the leader will lead. So, if Mr. Minnis is not re-elected, then one will easily can argue, that persons would have looked at who he is as a leader because he was there, and how he leads as a leader because he was there. So there is a multiplicity of things which are going into play. We're looking at your traits and we're looking at your performance. In the case of one of the other persons who will be vying for prime minister who have not been there yet, there are individuals who are going to be out there looking at their traits too. And based on the structure, based on the way persons vote around this side of the world, not a lot of persons will look squarely at how the persons will lead. But that is important. If you're going to be voting strictly on party line, then you're not necessarily going to be looking at the how. So the question is, how will the next leader, or the current leader, if he returns, move the Bahamas from the critical stage that it is right now? How will that particular leader, whosoever becomes the prime minister, the deputy prime minister, and the administration, how will they lead the Bahamas out of the economic crisis, out of the health crisis? How will they get to the place where we now start to understand that we have in place policies and programs and initiatives to better diversify the economy, to expand the economy, to leverage the internal resources of the country? How are we going to lead in such a way that we bring the creative genius, we bring the collective genius of all Bahamians together with a view of moving the country forward? How is that individual going to lead in terms of saying to the individuals out there in the world of the diaspora, individuals like myself who come from a different country, you have a place in this whole operation. How is the leader going to lead to use this mandate in such a way that at the end of the day, it does exactly what the Prime Minister says? A vibrant parliamentary democracy which is designed for the promotion of the common good and general welfare. The important words there are common and general. So, how is it that you're going to be good? How is it that I am going to be good? How is it that all of us are going to be good based on common basis? And not get to a place at the end of the day where persons will be screaming out status quo, status quo, status quo. The mandate, I think, the mandate that any parliamentary aspirant seek in this moment, in my opinion, is bigger than going in there for the purpose of a party winning. Because there have been some important changes. There have been some very, very fundamental changes since the last administration. As I said to you, 2020 and 2021 so far has given us the opportunity to see way more, to understand way more, and to get a greater appreciation of how this thing called country works. So it's not simply about you winning and a group of individuals either associated with the party or closely associated with them, they're going to be good and they're going to rejoice. No. It is or ought to be exactly what the Prime Minister says. It's about the promotion of common good and general welfare. What does that mean? Common good. Every single individual who has a right to the patrimony of the country is able to enjoy that patrimony based on fairness and equity, nothing corrupted, nothing based on any form of nepotism or favoritism. That's basically what the new mandate is going to be, or ought to be about. Because guess what? I believe that if the Bahamas doesn't make some fundamental shift in both governance and the way the country is run on an economic point of view, from an economic point of view, we're going to lose some significant leverage for recovery, for gaining that level of resilience that we are always talking about, for gaining this whole idea of diversification. It's important. So I do agree with the Prime Minister. I do agree with the Prime Minister that there are going to be some very, very, very important and difficult questions and decisions to be made after this election. And that, therefore, puts the responsibility squarely in the hands of, on the shoulders of the electorate, because the electorate now has the power. As I said to you, and I'm being very clear and very honest with this, my ideal is to see a parliament which is sufficiently balanced to ensure that going forward, the country has to be run, has to be managed on a more bipartisan basis. The two dominant sides and a spattering of independents would be the ideal thing, because it makes for coming together that more necessary. Let's take ourselves a quick break here, and when we come back, I am going to kind of jump into some of the reasons why I believe that leading and governing on the other side of this election is not going to be easy. But it could be in an interesting form of way. You listen to The Essentials, The Reset. Come right back.
Enjoy an elevated mobile experience with BTC, giving you
unlimited talk for the best conversations, unlimited data for all your online fun,
and unlimited roaming to stay connected while overseas.
For just $50 per line.
Unlock unlimited mobile talk, data, and roaming when you sign up for BTC Superfast Fiber Internet with speed starting at 100 megabits per second. Enjoy more great savings and value. Upgrade or sign up today. Visit any BTC store or btcbahamas.com. Conditions apply.
For the best jerk in the Bahamas, you must have balus, pork, fish, and chicken served with our delicious country-style sauce and authentic festivals. Balus, Nassau East South, call or WhatsApp 376-8951. Balus, the jerk with the soul of reggae and the spirit of Junkanoo. Balus jerk, traditional, slow-cooked to perfection. 376-8951. Get yours today.
Are you ready? August 23rd at 9 a.m., you can begin investing with as little as $25 in an international technology company and an international food franchise on awakx.com. What do you need to get started? Just go to awakx.com to sign up by clicking on Start Investing. So what are you waiting for? Let's go! AWACX, moving people from consumers to owners. Regulated by the Securities Commission of the Bahamas.
Tips for keeping children healthy. Ensure the children are up to date with their vaccinations, including the flu vaccine. Make sure that your children practice preventative actions such as proper hand washing. Teach them to cover their nose and mouth with tissue or the inner elbow when coughing or sneezing. Encourage them to keep their hands away from their eyes, nose, and mouth. Explain that they should keep their distance from persons who are coughing and sneezing. Keep your children home when they are sick.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
And welcome back as we get into the last couple of minutes of the show. Why am I indicating that it's not going to be easy for governing in the new administration? For this simple reason. Over the last 16 months or so, but certainly 2020 coming into 2021, we have experienced a significant amount of shock to the economy, significant amount of shock to the country, both on the social level, both on the private sector level, and certainly on the economic level, the public sector level. We have seen that. As a result of the crisis which is taking place now, the economic and the health crisis, we have seen the weakness of our infrastructure. We have seen the challenges with our educational system. We have seen and having a better understanding of what the level of poverty or the level of need, the weakness in the social system is. Before that, the persons who follow these things closely knew, but not everybody did. The fact of the matter is that today, as we speak, there are more persons in this country as a part of the electorate who are way more informed than they were 16 months ago. The fact of the matter is, from top to bottom, however you want to say it, from the Governor General representing the Queen to the Joneser on the street, now better understand where the policies for this country need to be effected and what needs to change, what is working, what is not working, what is challenged, what is not challenged, what may need improvement, and what the possibilities are. Why? Because one, a lot of things have been unpacked, have been laid bare, and we now understand why there are deficiency. We understand where the deficiency lies. A lot of light has been shone on leadership and the effectiveness of leadership, from communication all the way down to emotional intelligence. That has happened. There has been, over this short while, out of necessity, because things are always cropping up, this rich body of discussion around debt and deficit and borrowing and the proportion between local debt and foreign debt and the extent to which deficit financing is necessary, and talks about PPP and the need that we have for putting in certain infrastructure. We get that. Lots of persons now know that. It therefore means that the next administration which goes in and say, this people of the Bahamas represent our agenda, will be more easily judged against what is known in the public realm versus what they put out there. So if there isn't a big, large vision of getting the Bahamas to a place where more individuals can participate in the economic well-being of the country, that is, in my mind, going to be a non-starter. If there isn't some serious look at the social infrastructure of the country, including potential reforms with NIB, looking at taxation, those things are going to be non-starter. Now, when I say non-starter, it doesn't mean that they definitely must happen. But if the management of the economy is going to be effective going forward, and these things are not done, you can bet your bottom dollar that 5 years, 10 years down the road, we are going to see problems. These are the things which, in a weird, paradoxical way, they are legacies of COVID. COVID has beaten us to a pulp in many instances, but it is leaving a number of valuable deposits which we can profit from going forward. I think COVID has helped us to really clarify the priorities from a policy perspective, from an economic perspective, in education, on the social side, when it comes to energy, when it comes to family island development. COVID has done that. COVID has shown us where we need to have our human capital development in the areas of healthcare, in the areas of education, in the area of technology, right across the board. It has shown us our vulnerability too, because of our dependence and the concentration on tourism. COVID has done that. So while on one hand it has beaten us badly, on the other hand, it has provided us with vital lessons, a masterclass, if you will, of things which are necessary. On the leadership front, there have been lessons too. There have been lessons as to how you should communicate, as to how we should manage clarity of communication, as to how we should ensure that the timing for coming together of potential disparate views is managed, of understanding that the consensus building is fundamental in ensuring that the way forward is smoother. It has shown us the importance of the public sector working with the private sector as it works, as the public sector, that is, work to maintain its status as a facilitative agent for the private sector. We have been gifted. If you were paying attention, I believe you will agree. We have been gifted in the last 16 months, maybe 17, we're up to August now. But in the last while, between 2020 and 2021 to date, we have been gifted with such rich knowledge and understanding of the workings and the underpinnings and the rudiments and the fundamentals of what it means to have a operating machinery called the Bahamas, that if we do not leverage that information, if we do not leverage that knowledge, this moment, this very debilitating moment, significantly costly moment, is going to be wasteful. And that would be the classic definition, in some ways, of wasting a crisis. So, we must remember that the purpose of leadership and the purpose of those who are vying for parliamentary position is a relationship akin to an agency where the people are the principals and those who lead are the agents representing the principals. And I honestly believe that if that hasn't become cleared over this last while, then we would have lost or would have been or is losing a big lesson. I think we are at a tipping point, an inflection point where with some fundamental changes, not just in things and policies, but in attitudes and approach, the Bahamas' future is going to be well secure, it's going to be rich. So whether or not it is the FNM, the PLP, the DNA, the coalition, or whosoever becomes the ruling party, the ruling administration going forward, I believe that taking the lessons from today, applying them, working to move the common good and the general welfare forward is the way in which this country is going to be changed for the better. And I think to all of those persons who are aspirants, I will dedicate the way we always end the show. Do not allow your greatness to become a victim of your unwillingness to change. You have been listening to The Essentials, The Reset. That's our show for tonight. See you next week.
It's so essential, so serious. Time for these essentials.
Pediasure, the #1 brand recommended by pediatricians, now has 33% less sugar compared to previous formula and provides 25 vitamins and minerals and 7 grams of protein kids need for a healthy growth. It's a convenient meal or snack with a delicious kids-approved taste they'll love. Pediasure, nutrition to help kids grow. Ask your pediatrician about Pediasure today.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.